The Far Left Agenda Project's Erica Payne is here. Erica, we're very happy to have you back.
Nice to see you.
Your credentials are that you created that throw granny off a cliff ad demonizing Paul Ryan's Medicare plan. That was you, was it not?
It was.
We're not going to talk about that today, are we?
You don't want to talk about it?
No.
All right.
Well, I want to talk. Yeah. John Gibson's here. I want to talk
later.
You are essentially a demonization specialist, I think.
Wow.
And that's what we've got going on now. We've got
Coming
Vice
from you,
President.
Stewart, that's high praise.
We've got Vice President Biden. You think? No, I think you're lowering the tone of the whole conversation.
Because it wasn't low enough to begin with.
When Vice President Biden calls Tea Party people terrorists, I think that really lowers the tone. And actually, I think it exposes weakness. If you're reduced to calling a spontaneous grassroots movement a bunch of terrorists, I think you're betraying weakness in your own position. And I'm sure you would agree with that.
Well, you know how often you and I agree, Stewart. But no, so the Tea Party, I think the Tea Party really I had a lot of faith in what the Tea Party could do when they started 2 years ago, when they were formed around opposition to the bank bailouts. They could have played a factor when we were busy working on financial re-regulation to make sure the crash of the banks didn't happen again. If the Tea Party had come in and wielded that power the way that they could have gotten Republicans in line with a decent reform.
You hated it from day one.
You know, I really didn't. I'm from North Carolina, and I know where that energy comes from and that passion, and I understood where they were coming from.
So
I do think they're misdirected.
Do you think it's legit for Vice President Biden to describe the Tea Party as terrorists? Do you think it is legit for the New York Times to run this first sentence from Joe Nocera's article on the Tea Party? You know what they say, never negotiate with terrorists, it only encourages them. Now, do you think that's legit? Do you think it's a legitimate political part of the conversation? Do you?
Well, I think it's two things. One is that the political discourse is so grotesque and pathetic across the board from both sides.
Let's nail this down.
Do you
think that it's legit to call the Tea Party people terrorists? Come on, let's nail it down.
I do. I think it's legit to call them economic terrorists. We were
and you're not lowering the whole tone of the conversation.
You know what? Lowering the tone of America involves taking us to the brink of defaulting on our debt for the first time in history, which is exactly what the Tea Party did.
We can argue about that all day long, and I would dispute that. So you have no regrets about demonizing the Ryan plan, the throw granny off the cliff?
Absolutely not.
About that at all?
I would rather show people visually that the plan is about to throw them off the cliff, cut their benefits. Half of Americans on Medicare live on less than $28,000 a year.
You put out a lot of stuff for the
Democrats. Would have
eviscerated. Is this how you plan? Okay,
their Medicare.
So this is how you plan to run up to the election of next year. This kind of demonization. You're going to demonize.
Absolutely.
Because of course you cannot run on President Obama's record, can you? Because it's a record of failure and recession.
Well, keep in mind, I'm not running. What I'm trying to do is bring a little honesty to the public debate.
So
and I want the American people to know when Medicare is on the chopping block.
You are saying that the Tea Party people are terrorists, and you are saying that throwing granny off a cliff is an honest contribution to the discussion.
So,
why
Stewart,
don't you look at the,
if you look at the cuts to Medicare
why don't you give us
in the Ryan plan, it would have
Give me an honest assessment, please, of President Obama's economic performance. Can you give me an honest assessment? Do it now.
I think that President Obama gets a C or a C minus for what he has done with the economy. I think that the economic team he put in place was not the economic team I would have chosen. They're an economic team that were under Clinton and helped lead the deregulation that led to our financial collapse. I also think the stimulus was not constructed properly. I think the Wall Street fight that Obama could have been chief educator. At the end of the day, chief educator is one of his key roles. The White House was not behind strong financial reform.
Is that
so
too harsh?
I think failure is too harsh. I think, as I said, it's
terrorist
a C minus.
is okay. Failure is too harsh.
I don't think we've failed. I think we've done a not very good job. That, as I've put out in an email to some of our supporters of the Agenda Project today, you know, better than the alternative is not good enough for this country. And that's what we have right now.
Does a C-minus president deserve re-election?
It depends on who he's running against.
Bingo. Now, here's the deal. So you got to demonize who he's running against. Frankly, Stewart, I'm glad to know that Erica has called off the Tucson pledge, because I felt very constricted by it. As long as we can play the demonization game, As long as Erica said, we're going to demonize you
Okay.
guys, I think we have much more ammunition on our side going after what Obama has done and his failure, his admitted failure, the failure that the left is now proclaiming that he is.
Well,
So
I haven't seen a lot of restraint from you all up to this point, so-
that post-Tucson are now off, I'm all for it. Because I felt a little constricted.
Where I'm sitting, I never saw anybody following the post-Tucson rules in the first place. I don't think
the
that we
left
had...
insisted that the
I don't
rules
think
be
we had a
obeyed by the right,
civilized
even if the left wasn't going to
debate.
obey them themselves. So
I mean,
the rules were
you know,
always for
I tell you
somebody
what,
else.
hold on a second. You've got a good voice, but I'm afraid I have to shout you down. We're flat out of time. It was good to see you again. We look forward to the demonization process that we're going to see from you in the next 15 months.
Great.
Come back and tell us how you're going to demonize and who you're going to demonize.
I will.
Take me on. I'd love it.
Come on,
I'd love
Stewart.
it. Come on, have a go at me.
You're too
Have
cute to take on, Stewart.
Cute. I'll take that. Erica Payne, everybody. Thank you very much indeed. Good
Thank
stuff.
you.
Next, John Gibson tells us what his listeners are saying.